Hello, Night Nation. Trey Strelko here. Welcome to the Sons of UCF Live. Hair on fire time for Gus Malzahn, grading the Knights. And we have the scoop on those murals inside the Wayne Dench. Let us welcome in the Sons of UCF, Adam and Mike, a couple of guys who crack me up on this National Egg Day. Gentlemen?
I see what you did there. I'm not aware of the scoop, Trace. Even I don't know the scoop. Are we breaking news around here now?
We have a little more details. I don't know if it's breaking news, but a little bit more information on those murals.
Well, I can't wait. What is that on the blog? I didn't see it on the rundown. I'll have to double check that rundown. I'll do that right now, and I guess we can let UCF Mike, bearded UCF Mike, say hello this evening. Yeah,
about as much as my facial hair will go. But what about you? What's up with your background? Where's the Dante jersey? You got kicked out of that room finally?
Yeah, no, alternate secret location. Got a little family in town, so we're at an off-site, undisclosed location here.
All right. And George has been missing from Trace's background for a little while now, so I've got the longest running background, I think, on the show.
The longest running background in Sons of UCF Live history. UCF Mike, hands down.
Yes, you earn that honor. You know, we're scrimping here as we are in June for football news, less than 100 days till the opener. Some news to share, though. Quarterback counselors for the Manning Passing Academy coming up in July. Among them, Dylan Gabriel. And had to make a mention of this when I saw our friend Drew Bellani comment. 24/7 Sports ranked the 9th best trio in college football as Dylan, Bentavious, and Jalen Robinson, and Drew Bellani said, best UCF trio, hands down, UCF Mike, Adam, and myself. Where is the lie, he asks, in that best trio?
Are we now the longest continuous running trio in UCF podcast history?
Ooh. Definitely one.
Superlatives.
I mean, I don't know. No, definitely appreciate the love by Drew. He's been a long-time friend for the show, so definitely appreciate that. And the Passing Academy thing, look, it's a rite of passage. It seems like every year different quarterbacks go out there. I know Mackenzie Milton went out there. I think that's where he met Brandon Wimbush, and they had a little bit of a formation of a friendship out there. It seems like a rite of passage. I don't know how much work is done at these camps. I'm not sure, what the exact rigors of the workload are, but it seems like a rite of passage to be invited to these kind of things. So it's good to see our boy DG on that list.
Yeah, only the best quarterbacks in the nation go to this thing. Mackenzie was a part of it a couple years ago, and it gets your name out there. And I do think there's some scouts that show up to this thing here and there, or at least gets word of mouth going about some of your talents going into your senior year, or in Dylan's case, his junior year.
Yeah, if you're following social media, right, all over Twitter, Facebook, the message boards, the dead period is over. Recruits are coming onto campus because of COVID, of course, more than 15 months since last in-person visits. And Coach Malzahn at the Charge on Tour just last week saying June 1 through the 26th, going to be a very critical 26 days in college football and certainly for UCF. And we all know how important it is to get these kids on campus to see UCF. This is a big time for Coach Malzahn and his staff with these in-person recruits.
Well, you saw how serious they're taking it. We saw the videos on social media of the upgrades to the Wayne Dench, some of the new signage, and I know, Trace, you're going to talk about that at some point here throughout, but you definitely saw an effort to spruce up the facilities a little bit and definitely showcase what UCF has to offer. Competition's going to be stiff there. Everybody's looking to get people out to campus. I saw Florida State had like a midnight madness session where 12:01 on June 1st, they had kids on campus. So it's going to be kind of an all-out sort of blitz, so to speak, for the next couple of weeks. You got to feel good, though. UCF's getting some of these good big names on campus. You get to see UCF. For those of you who went there, obviously, you watch us. The campus can sell itself. And Gus has done a hell of a job selling UCF as well, and his staff seems pretty energized. So these could be a really seminal 26 days to determine, the Gus Malzahn trajectory. We all think the arrow is pointing up. It could take a major leap forward over these next 26 days.
Gus's hair is on fire right now, just like he promised. Every coach, when they come into UCF, says, hey, I'm going to recruit the Florida kids, Orlando area first. Gus said he's doing that. He already started that. The first day, it was a lot of local kids. And then on Bounce House weekend, he's got some of the top recruits in the country coming and paying a visit in person to him and his staff. That's where you want to see him close the deal on a couple of kids. But these prospects are going to a lot of big-time schools. So I see kids that are coming into UCF that weekend, but also going to Alabama and Florida and Georgia the following weeks. So if he can close them before he gets to those other schools, that'd be huge. I don't know if we should expect that, but at least they're coming to the campus and seeing what it's like for themselves.
Well, that prompted my big question on Twitter at SignPez this week. Does UCF head coach Gus Malzahn reel in a 5-star recruit during his first recruiting class? Nearly evenly split. 52% of respondents said yes. At 2 words says yeah, but not sure it matters much. We've been as good as anyone with 2 and 3-star student athletes. Gus is an old high school coach. He knows how to prep with what he's got. What do you vote? Yes or no? Does he get a 5-star in his first recruiting season?
I'm going to say no. And I have no real reason for that, just a gut feeling. But I kind of agree with 2 letters, which is Robert. I kind of agree with Robert a little bit. Does it really matter? UCF's kind of built itself as a chip on the shoulder program. We've always found those 3-star, 2-star guys who kind of blossom into great players. And so that's kind of the DNA of UCF. Obviously, Gus is coming from a bit of a different philosophy in the SEC. But we all know, Mike says this every week, stars don't really matter. You know, we've seen 5-star guys who couldn't throw a football from here to my camera. And we've seen 1-star guys who can run and jump and fly around the football. So what does that really matter? It ultimately doesn't necessarily always translate on the field. Really, it's the optics of UCF saying we're now getting top caliber talent to come to UCF, and top caliber as defined by the system. That's really what you're asking here. Does it matter? Probably not. Would it be good for the brand? Sure. But ultimately, doesn't really matter. I say no. So I'm going to go no this time around, not saying never, but this time around, I'm going to say Gus might need a year of sort of showcasing UCF a little bit more before we start reeling in the quote unquote 5 stars.
I voted yes in the poll just because everything Gus has done so far has impressed me. And I wouldn't be shocked if he did it. Now, if he doesn't do it, am I going to say it's a failure? No. But, he's done everything right so far, and I don't see why not. This thing can snowball, man. He gets one. I'm not saying he's going to get 5 or 6 5-stars, but one of them. And by the time we get 1 5-star, the next week that kid's going to be a 4-star anyway. So that's all relative. So it doesn't really matter whether we do or get one or we don't, because in the end, our rating is going to be whatever these sites make up for us.
I'd love to see it. I would vote no. I gotta see him do it before I will believe it. Of course, it's June. I described in my stand-up tease this week that it's the silly season. That means we've got to talk expansion. SportsIllustrated.com columnist Mark Blodshon out with an article suggesting the AAC might expand to 14 with some names we know: Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State. In his configured divisions, he's got an Eastern division, of course, UCF in that, the Cows, ECU, Cincy, Tulane, Temple, Navy. He moves Navy over from the West to the East. What do you think? Do you think there's some legs to this that certainly with Boise State itching to do better than the Mountain West, this would clearly give the AAC some separation from the rest?
Well, from the rest of the quote-unquote group of 5, which I feel like we're already there. They really move very far. A couple of things. You asked, do I think this one has legs? How many times have we seen this expansion talk? How many times have we seen Boise circle in the AAC wagons? It doesn't seem to have ever come to fruition. What's interesting, Trace, if I have this article right, this article was posted and then taken down very shortly after, with some conspiracy theorists saying that this writer in particular is, a confidant, maybe close with Mike Oresco, and all of a sudden it releases and then it gets taken back. So are there some more legs to it? Does that add to the maybe the validity of it because it got taken down so quickly? I don't know. To me, San Diego State, Colorado State, Boise State, no disrespect to those teams, but does this really get us into that conversation, I think, where we all want to be at? I'm not so sure it does. I think it's that's a strong add to an already strong conference, but I don't know that it gets us over that hump.
Yeah, the same writer also called it the ACC like 4 times in the article. So how valid it is, I don't know. Obviously, it would make us the best of the rest of the conferences, the best of the G5. But is it going to get us a guaranteed spot into the playoff? Not the way it is right now. Maybe that's his hope. When the playoff finally expands to 8 teams or 12 teams, that we can be guaranteed 1 spot. I don't know if the rest of the conference are going to go for that. But, it's worth a shot because right now we can't stay at 11. We know that, right? I think we only had a pass for that for the first couple of years without to have a championship game with 11 teams. We're going to have to at least get back to 12. And I think expanding out to the West is good. I wouldn't mind adding 5 teams, make it a 16-team conference, right? And that's taking into account that maybe teams like UCF and Cincinnati may be leaving. So maybe that's why you add more teams that way. thinking you may lose a couple along the way too.
Well, I like what Brian Peterson said that was just up on screen. Does adding these teams increase the revenue? And, that's a question the AAC has to ask. And Mike, to your point, they can't stay at 11 forever. Adam, back to what you said, does anybody really move the needle? If not Boise State, then who? Then what team would possibly move the needle and make the AAC a more attractive for football? I don't consider any of these possibilities, Boise, Colorado State, San Diego State, in the rest of the sports, travel too arduous, but certainly for football, Boise State, who else?
Yeah, that's a great question, Trace. I don't know where you go to find other schools that sort of make this more palatable for the quote unquote Power Five. I don't know where those schools are at. I think it offers that separation between the AAC and some of the other Group of Five conferences. But is it enough to get us across that finish line? I feel like it's a nice pass from the 20. It gets us down to the 1, but does it get us into the goal line? I think that's where it's debatable. And ultimately, I think for Mike Oresco, he's got to find a way to break through that barrier. I just can't see him sitting down in front of commissioners and the quote unquote Power Five and saying, "Hey, great news, everybody! Colorado State, they're coming with us," and people just jumping over the table and saying, "All right, come on into our party." I just don't know if that moves the needle. But to be fair, Trace, I don't know what moves the needle.
Maybe BYU, if he can talk them into it, that's a nice name. Maybe he had this article leaked out in order to maybe put a little pressure on BYU to make a decision. That's the other big name. BYU and Boise would be two names that really would boost the conference.
And we're certainly going to see them on UCF's future football schedules beginning in less than 100 days. As we talked about last week, the Boise State game at UCF announced for Thursday, September 2nd. But I think that question of which teams really move the needle, I mean, you look at the Appalachian states, and I know there's this talk of maybe Army or the service academies being interesting to add with Navy, but I don't know that to Brian's question, does it enhance the revenue? Which, when we talk about the Big 12, if the Big 12 thought with 10 teams that adding UCF would increase their dollars, wouldn't they do that, right? So they've held to 10 and reel in the money that they do and just split it amongst fewer schools.
Yeah, the Big 12 is so hard to sort of pigeonhole here, Trace, because it seems like their decisions on surface face value are a bit head scratching. But Mike says this every week on the show, follow the money. And I think that's how you figure out the Big 12's conundrum. I would think, logically speaking, that would add some value to the conference, adding two top teams like a UCF, like a Cincinnati, that allow them, more eyeballs, get into the Florida market, get into the Ohio market, challenging sort of the Ohio State footprint, if there is such a thing there. But it just, to me, I don't know that these teams move the needle. It's kind of like what Mike said. It's basically doing something just to do something. But is it the right something to do? I don't know that I'm convinced it is. Big 12, now maybe that's a conversation. But the new AAC, not working for me.
The Big 12 seems more reactionary than taking the proactive approach to this. They may wait too long. Teams like Oklahoma and Texas may get out of there, and then they're going to be scrambling for teams like us. And at that point, I think I'd much rather just stay in the American, especially if we're guaranteed a spot in the playoff. Maybe pick off a couple of those teams, like a Baylor or a Texas Tech, get them to join instead of these teams out from all the way out west.
Yeah, it becomes the Big East 2.0, right? We saw this already play out with the old Big East, right? I mean, it's the Big East 2.0 at that point.
Well, as Mike, you can attest, when you heard Terry Mohadra on the Charge on Tour stop in real South Florida, he talked about the need for fundraising. There's also been talk about the need for facility upgrades. We're going to talk to a gentleman now new to UCF. He's Carlos McCants. He's the Associate AD for UCF's Championship Resources and Varsity Nights. Carlos, thanks for stopping by the Sons of UCF Live.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. Can you guys hear me good?
We hear you just fine. You played under Gus Malzahn. You worked for Terry Mohadra. But what do you think of being at UCF these weeks you've been here?
Hey, it's been great. So welcoming. When you start a new job and you move to a new city, there's some nervousness into that, especially with the dynamics of moving. And I'm married, so having to try to get my wife here. I had built the house in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and I had to sell it right away. So everything's been really good. And a quick story: when I first saw Coach Malzahn, I haven't seen him since 2012, 2013. And the first thing he said is he remembered that I missed a block against West Kentucky. And so he gave me crap about missing a block. But it's been so great to kind of connect with him and then be alongside Terry Mohadra.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about Terry Mohadra. You obviously worked directly for him at Arkansas State. What kind of leader is he, and how fortunate are we at UCF to have him as our new athletic director?
So I had the luxury of having Terry as a student athlete. So he was my AD when I was a student athlete, and then obviously he hired me. Basically, I mean, I wouldn't be in this position today without him. I started my internship underneath him, and for a couple of weeks he had me moving file cabinets and filing papers. So I thought, in my role, I'm thinking like, man, you just turn on the lights and play sports. But he showed me a different side of it. It's tough love, but he loved the kids, and I know he's run on record about the job, 100% job placement or graduate school placement, and that's real. That's 100%. And so to be a part of that, to work under him and follow him, it's been great.
You're running the Varsity Knights program. We've already heard from former players how the relationship has gotten a lot better under the new regime. We heard about the golf tournament that happened a couple months ago. What else you guys have planned for all those guys?
Well, just trying to do whatever we can to keep them engaged and connect them and welcome them home. At the end of the day, UCF, this is home for them, and so we want to create an environment so whenever they do come back, that they feel special. And so there's with COVID, a lot of things wasn't able to be taking place as far as events, but the first thing that we got to do is whenever they had the football golf tournament, we took Gus there, and Gus brought his staff, and then I took Terry there. And basically, that meant the world to the football guys because, for a minute, they haven't had that interaction between the coach or the AD due to COVID. So it was kind of one of our first deals. But not just football, Varsity Night's going to be open up to all sports. So I'm going to be meeting with each coach basically to try to build a calendar. And so to kind of have receptions and just welcome, all Varsity Nights back from all the sports.
In your bio at the athletics website, it mentions that you helped increase revenue for Arkansas State's Letterman's Club by more than 1,000%. How were you able to do that? What potential do you see here at UCF in that same area?
Really, it was just effort, just consistent effort, reaching out. At my previous school, we really didn't have anyone in a position that was reaching out constantly. So for my role, I just showed them that, the school is always welcoming. And here, I think it's so great because there's a lot of momentum here. This is a great place. And just to be able to build on what was already set, like this is my full-time role. So I get to every day I wake up, how can I reconnect former Varsity Knights back to the program? And so just by doing that every day, I think is going to be able to prove that we got a good program in place.
Yeah. So with the Varsity Knights, how do you, as sort of the face, the voice of that, how do you educate yourself on the UCF history, right? Is there a crash course you take? Is someone sit you down with flashcards and show pictures? How'd you go about educating yourself on sort of the history of UCF sports?
Really, it's a combination of both flashcards, or you just got to get in front of people and kind of listen to the stories. And, this is a young program with the first season being 1979. And so, talking to some of the guys, they're old, but I'm used to, meeting with people that's, 70, 80 years old. And so just kind of getting with the guys and just different sports. I had a conversation with a Varsity Night volleyball letterman, and just kind of, she kind of told me all the history of the volleyball program and just basically doing everything I can to meet with the different sports and kind of building it from there.
As you're also running the Championship Resources Program, I believe just a short while ago, Terry Mohadra said the goal was to raise $100 million. And a lot of us kind of raised our eyebrows and said, well, that's what seems like a lot of money. You guys have a time frame on that goal?
No time frame. We've been getting after it. The Shareholder Society, we've increased our membership for that program, and it's been really great. The thing is, you get a dynamic coach like Gus Malzahn, and just all of our sports we've had across the board, everyone has been successful, and so just getting out in front of people, just sharing our excitement. It's so hard to be honest. It's hard to fundraise when you behind a Zoom, but when you get in front of somebody, they can see your passion for a program or the student athletes. I think that's when you really can make a difference. So. $100 million campaign, we're not scared of it. We got to set goals, right? And so we got to set these goals and smash them.
All those years at Arkansas State, what was your perception of UCF and the short time you've been here? How has that changed, perhaps?
I would say this program is big time. I would say it is big time. And, the thing is that there's still a lot of improvement, but the massive success that we've had across the board is just so unreal. And whenever we start putting together facility upgrades across the board, we're really gonna make it a difference in recruiting, and it's already making a difference. I know you guys probably saw the video came out of the Wayne Dench facelift that we did, and this week starting the recruiting, and the first day of recruiting was I think the first, and so just you are already starting to see how excited the recruits are to start getting on campus, and how excited our coaches are to get in front of the student athletes that we're trying to recruit. So it's been really great.
Carlos, have you had a chance to ever watch a game in the Bounce House? Have you seen a game live throughout your college football travels?
I haven't seen it live, so I'm super excited. Everybody is telling me about how it actually bounced, so I'm intrigued to see how that looks.
Now, where will you be game day? Are you going to be in the stands? Are you going to be on the field? Where can people find Carl? Are you going to be bouncing and Zombie Nation?
Honestly, with my role being a hybrid, dealing with former varsity Knights, but also serving as a major gift officer, I think I'd be all over the place. I like to be around people, so you may see me in the Cabana Club, you may see me in the suites, you may see me in the stands, on the sideline. Hey, I may be all over the place.
Adam and I have had this idea for the last couple of years, and we've spoken to a lot of former players that are in on it. You may be the guy to actually make this happen.
No pressure.
We had this idea for during the spring game, having maybe a skills contest for some of the former players. So a bunch of former quarterbacks. Remember how you used to see those old-time quarterback challenge things? Maybe a kicking contest between old kickers. A lot of the guys want to do it. Can you get that in motion?
Hey, we may have to sign some waivers just in case these guys don't get hurt. There's no running events involved. Maybe some throwing or catching, but we don't want anyone to pull a hamstring. But hey, we may make some work like that. Maybe a field goal contest or throw the ball through the tire or something.
We've heard a great deal lately about improving facilities at UCF. In your experience at Arkansas State, how did you, Terry Mohadra, the rest of the team, improve facilities during your tenures there?
We really expanded our donor base. We really, and this is no knock to the previous AD before Terry, but there was really no plan to kind of expand. All of our donors was inside the city of Jonesboro, and so we put an emphasis on getting out of the city. And one of my roles was to get out in the Texas and the Floridas and just all visit the alumni in different areas. And so I kind of think even here, just expanding, getting out is, not just focusing on the Orlando area, but just branching out to different cities and different states. That's going to be really helpful. And that's where we were able to be successful at. But a lot of the excitement too, winning. I was part of a class that won 3 conference championships in 3 years. And we went on to, I think at one point we was 5 out of 6 years. And so winning helps everything. A lot of people are excited. A lot of people like to open up their checkbooks when you're winning. So we just got to keep winning.
One of the things I've loved the most, Carlos, is seeing pictures on social media of some of the former Knights back at practices, back at the spring game, things like that. As you've had a chance to interact with some of these guys, what have their reactions been to sort of the new UCF and Coach Malzahn and some of the new things you guys want to do? How excited are you hearing from some of those guys when they're back on campus?
The guys are shocked. It's like for some reason they never experienced that before. And it's something that, from my point of view, you got to keep these guys engaged and keep them excited. Once they leave, and they're going to be the ambassadors of our program. So whenever they go to the NFL or go become a successful business person, they're going to represent UCF through and through. So whenever they do come back, make them feel like at home. I know Coach has done a great job as far as making credentials. So when guys come back, they have a lanyard. So when fans, see them, they can recognize them. Obviously, they know who these players are, but they can feel special with credential pass. And also they get T-shirts. And so just doing a special test like that will go a long way to kind of keep our guys involved.
You've obviously worked with Terry Mohadra for a long time, going back to Arkansas State. We've gotten familiar with him a little bit. We've seen the TikTok videos. We've had now some meet and greets with him. Give us something that we don't know about Terry Mohadra that maybe you know about him.
Well, if you guys want to join us for a workout session, we work out every day in the Roth Tower. So we get after it. We pride ourselves on being the most athletic team in the nation, and so I put him up against any AD when it comes to fitness.
Yeah, I asked him if he could beat all the other ADs in an arm wrestling contest. He didn't say yes, but he said he could take Danny White, our old AD.
Oh my God! Nah, look, I put Terry up against anyone. You know, you got to think he played defensive back, so he like to hit people. So I put him up against anyone.
We're obviously still getting to know him. What has made him successful?
Being intentional. He's straightforward. He'll tell you how it is, and I think a lot of people respect that. He's a great leader, and at the end of the day, the main thing is the main thing, as he always say. And every day we get to wake up and for one purpose on, and that's to serve our student athletes. Again, I always look at Terry as a student athlete AD. He really cares about those kids, and he's made a lot of impact on a lot of people's lives. And he talks about when he graduated from college, his coach basically patted him on the back and said, good looking life, kid. And so he said that whenever he became an AD or a person in a leadership role, he never wanted to have young people go through that. So that's when the jobs program was created, to basically guarantee 100% job placement or graduate school placement for our student athletes and our young people.
Carlos, not sure if this one's up your alley or not, but do you know if there's any plans to continue the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame? It's been a couple of years since we had classes inducted. I know we've had a lot of great nights that are inducted. Do you know if there's any plans to sort of induct a class in the near future?
Yeah, I've met with a couple of staff here to try to kind of get the background on that, the voting structure, the committee. Actually, I had a meeting about it last week, so I think we want to look at trying to bring that back, put together some committee to kind of vote. And then I'd be heavily involved in it. I actually ran the Hall of Fame at my previous school. I coordinated the whole thing, so I would definitely be involved in it. Now, I think they have, in recent past, they've had it run a spring game, but I have to kind of dig deep on seeing exactly when the best time to have it. I know spring game is a big deal around here, and so having it that Friday before, I think that would be a great opportunity to kind of get people back on campus.
You said you're having a committee. Do you need me, Mike, and Trace? I mean, I think we're available if you need some committee members.
I may get some feedback from you guys.
All right, we're in.
How are you enjoying Orlando so far? Have you settled in? Have you found a favorite restaurant and everything else?
It's been great. My wife here loves it. She loves to be able to go to right down the street and get a bottle of wine. We was in a dry county in Jonesboro, so the restaurant has been great. I'm a big seafood guy. I've been from Mobile, Alabama, so I've tried to eat at a couple different seafood spots here. But we've been to a place, I think it's called Bosphorus, is in Lake Nona. That's pretty good. It's like a Turkish cuisine restaurant. It's really good, really good.
Earlier, you were talking about expanding the radius, getting to meet people. As you're learning, UCF's alumni base is young, mid-30s. Maybe you don't have deep pockets. What's the challenge in that for you when you don't have that older, wealthier alum?
Well, actually, I mean, I feel like we have a bunch of numbers. Sometimes I know schools, they get focused on one big donor, but they don't have a collective group of donors. So the strength in numbers is very important rather than trying to focus on one wealthy donor. And so I think that's the leg that we have on a lot of schools. We have so many young alumni who still connected to the program and they still excited. And we have successful alumni that are young. And so, you're gonna hit those home runs where you get these $1 million donors and these 7-figure donors. But if we can get the 25,000s, the 50,000s, the 100,000s, in a larger group of those, we'll be just fine. We'll the $100 million campaign won't be that bad. I promise. I'm excited about it.
Carlos, we're an interactive show. We like to take questions from our audience. Brian Peterson is asking, is there any update on the Lazy River? I don't know if you're authorized to speak on that, but the Lazy River, any update you can give us?
There's no update I can give you on those guys. I know there's some the guys are working behind the scenes to kind of formulate a plan to execute that deal. So I really can't speak on that.
How far back did the COVID set our budget? I mean, I know you weren't there last year, but coming off a year with no fans in a lot of these stadiums, are we far behind, or we got a lot of ground to make up coming up this year?
Oh no, I think we're in really good shape. The Keep Charging On Fund has really helped. You've seen a lot of engagement with that, and then also we've had some shareholder members commit and be involved with that. So that's helped with our operating budget. And so, to be honest, we're in great shape going into this new year, this non-COVID year. And I think we have a team in place that are really great. It's been great to kind of learn about be on a team with the championship resource guys, and they're really good. It's so exciting to learn and kind of experience and go through new things, new challenges. But I think we're going to be great.
UCF just announced the home and home with FAU. What has been the challenge of scheduling? When you're in these meetings, you hear Terry and others talking about it. What's the challenge out in that marketplace for scheduling UCF out in the rest of the 20s?
To be honest, it's a lot of schools don't really want to play UCF. To be honest, and I think Terry's philosophy. I can't speak on previous, administration, but I know Terry's philosophy is that we'll play anyone, anywhere, anytime. We'll play them on concrete, we'll play them on grass, whatever. So right now, I think the challenge is trying to get people to play us, and I think that's what we're scrambling. Terry and the executive team is scrambling to do.
Carlos, for any of the former Knights players who are maybe watching or listening, how can they learn more about what you guys are doing with the Varsity Knights? How can they follow you? How can they get in touch if they want to learn more?
So we act on social media. Our social media presence is really good. Varsity Knights social on Twitter, and then Varsity Knights on Instagram. But my personal, I tweet a lot too. I'm very active in the Twitter world. So my Twitter game is Carlos McCants 1. And so you can follow me, you can add me, but we put out information, and we've done email blasts to all the Varsity Knights, kind of updating information and kind of laying out the new Varsity Knights membership program. We actually hired a former Varsity Knight, Allie Dirksen. She was a former roar. She's very excited to be. I'm excited to keep her around. She's a go-getter. And she knows the lay of the land. She's been around for a while, and so I'm excited to keep her around and go forward with that. But she's been very engaged with the alumni. She's already hit the ground running. To this week, we've been working on just trying to clean up the system where we can keep everybody organized as far as the data. That's the hardest thing. You get all these young alumni, they move around so much. So the email addresses may still be UCF addresses. So just trying to stay up to date on that and just trying to keep it in good standing.
What happens when there's about 100 different guys that want to come back for a football game? They all want sideline passes. How do you determine who gets to be on the field? How you get to say no to some people? What do you do?
Hey, we're gonna have to be unequally fair. But I don't. We talked about this. There's some logistics that we got to work through in regards to. We got to make sure we do it right. We don't want it to be a safety hazard down there where a guy run off the field and run into one of these guys. So we got to make sure that it's ran correctly. There may be some RSVP deal in place, or we just got to work through that. I don't know how it was in the past. With me being new here, I also want to make sure we follow the protocols on sideline access, and so I'm still working through that, only being 2 months in. But I know Terry. He loves when the alumni come back, especially former football guys. Being at a football game, he likes to kind of give those guys some access down on the sideline.
Let us wrap up with this. It didn't turn out so well for UCF the last time they played Arkansas State. But should that game come to be, what do you do? That's a win-win or what for you?
What I do, I'm UCF right now, so I'm all the way. Go Knights, charge on.
All right, that sounds good. You're going to have a busy stretch until September 2nd, aren't you?
Yeah. It's been. I'm trying to put together a calendar. I know with the Boise game being announced, we're trying to plan some things around that. Homecoming, we're trying to put together, events or a big tailgate for that. And then I think this year, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Navy game is the 500 football game in school history. So, try to get all the football guys back for that and, recognize the history of that. So it's a lot of things that got to think through and try to put together kind of all the other sports where we can kind of engage and reconnect the other varsity nights as well.
Carlos McCants, Associate AD for UCF's Championship Resources and Varsity Nights. We appreciate you stopping by the Sons of UCF Live, and we wish you all of the best in your new role at UCF.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, go Knights.
Charge up.
Thanks, Carlos. All right, he is hitting the ground running. Good to hear what he's saying about the Varsity Nights. We heard a little bit. You've had some interviews with some former players that said maybe they felt a little neglected. Of course, there's more than just football. There's a whole host of sports that have had success at UCF. It seems like there's a real growth opportunity to re-engage with former student athletes.
Yeah, I think, a couple of things. Obviously, you can think about it from a financial standpoint, but just flatly, it's the right thing to do. A lot of these players, a lot of these athletes gave their all for UCF back when the program was still building itself. They sacrificed a ton, and they should feel welcome back to be around the sports or the athletics that they helped to build and they helped to sort of make what they are today. So it's good to see that. I said it in the interview. I love seeing those pictures on Twitter or Instagram of guys coming back and shaking hands with Gus and being on the sideline, and some of the players that are together and they're watching the spring game. I love seeing that kind of stuff. I know when the fans see them walking around, it's always a cool experience. So I think it's a really well worth sort of idea, and I'm glad. And I don't know how unique it is, so maybe someone can educate me on that. I don't know how unique it is for a school to have a specific role, a specific individual designed to bring those folks back in. I'm not sure how much that's done across the nation, but I'm glad that Mohadra brought that here to UCF.
It's always going to be nice to see them give back to the guys that gave so much to us. But also, some of those guys have the most money. I mean, look at guys like Brandon Marshall and other football players that have signed millions and millions of dollar contracts. We need those guys to come back in and help out the program too, right? It'd be great if I could see Dante back on the sidelines. We haven't seen Dante in ages, so maybe he's the guy that can bring him back.
Well, that is fair. You see a lot of schools, they have, the Miami has the Jonathan Vilma weight room, right? You see a lot of schools that have, buildings and different, facilities named after athletes. So maybe it'd be cool to see the first, Blake Bortles dining hall or the Brandon Marshall receivers room or whatever that might look like. That certainly is a pretty cool, unique idea.
Men's soccer had that a couple of years ago when Winston DuBose made a donation with regards to the locker room, but certainly not enough of that across the campus. So opportunity there. Carlos seems like a good fit for UCF. Now, a couple of ladies that are a few years away from being varsity Knights, a couple of freshmen, one that we just recently had as a guest on Sons of UCF Live, going on to the NCAA championships in track and field, talking about freshman Ashara Collins in the triple jump, and our previous guest, Renaya Jones, in the 100-meter hurdles. These events begin a week from today in an absolutely beautiful facility in Eugene, Oregon, on the campus of the University of Oregon. So we wish these ladies good luck, even though, as we have established now for 2 consecutive shows, Mike could beat Renaya in a 5K.
Trace, I've always been amazed by the triple jump. Who thought of that as an event? Why has it got to go 3? Like, who was like, hey, no, one more, make it one. I don't understand the triple jump.
So whoever lost the double jump and they say, oh yeah, we need one more jump. That's the guy that made it up.
That's
and
what
he
I
won
said.
That one and he stopped.
And I don't think you're quite ready with your foot, your toe, to be doing single, double, or triple jumps.
Is that a challenge?
No.
I saw the picture and he's back. He's back in the weight room. He's ready
I was back in the weight. Yeah, I the same machine that
took a
crushed my
picture
toe.
of the weights. We didn't see any video.
That's fair. I mean, I can't do both. Clearly, my coordination is lacking if I don't have a toe right now. So I don't want to do both, and have a repeat occurrence.
It was like Trace filming himself with doing 4 steps on the walk and talk that one.
Oh, here we go again.
Yeah, were you okay in this week's walk and talk, Trace? Did your car break down? You were seeming to be over a bit of an overpass. Everything okay?
I just go where I can find a spot and have time. So
have you ever
I do
been...
have AAA, Mike. I'm good in case there's a car problem.
Have you ever been stopped by law enforcement wondering if you escaped from any sort of facility nearby?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
No, I'm known by local law enforcement. They just let me wander around aimlessly.
No questions asked.
Some basketball news this Thursday. Our friend Jason Beatty at The Real Beatty reporting that UCF men's basketball players Darius Perry and CJ Walker On the list of early entrants for the 2021 NBA draft, Isaiah Adams, who had previously declared not on that list. And NCAA rules say that they have until Wednesday, July 7th to decide whether they're going to enter the NBA draft. So doesn't mean anything yet.
Excited about Isaiah Adams. Obviously, we saw a ton of promise out of him. I don't know if he got the information he was seeking and decided it was time to come back. I don't know the logistics of how that works, but excited to have him back. I think he's going to be a cornerstone if Johnny is going to have a great year in the upcoming 21-22 season. Isaiah Adams will be a big piece of that. Excited to see him back. CJ Walker's still interesting, a bit of a head scratcher. Obviously, his offensive game, probably isn't where it needs to be at the NBA level, but he rebounds. He's athletic. He can play some defense. You would think he'd be a guy who would potentially benefit from coming back another season. But again, these guys are going to make decisions best for them. Darius Perry, I could go either way on that. I think I joke every time. He never met a shot he didn't like. So maybe he'll shoot his shot and go to the NBA. But I'm glad to see Isaiah Adams is coming back. He's going to be a big piece for the 2021 season.
The whole last season, I thought we only rented Perry for a year. I didn't even expect him to come back. I know everybody has the free COVID year. If he comes back, it's a bonus, a little more experience that we've had on the team last year. But if he goes, then, that's part of the deal too.
Some news about Mike's new best friend, Johnny Dawkins, with Duke head coach Mike Krzyzewski retiring in 2022. At Goodman Hoops, reporting that some names considered include Tommy Amaker and our own Johnny Dawkins, but it looks like Duke is going to go with John Shire. Interesting to see, obviously, Johnny on that list, but I think good to see him back with the Knights.
Yeah, you would think that would be a really easy name to put on the list for replacements for Coach K. Obviously, he's got success at the coaching ranks. Not sure how serious it got, but one of the things that I think these guys, you saw Roy Williams do this. Essentially, you saw Krzyzewski do this. They want to pick their successor. John Shire, if you're a college basketball fan, that's a bit of a head scratcher. He's never coached a head coach job at that level, at any level. I don't think he went right off of the Duke floor onto some European league stuff, and then right on to the bench as an assistant. So no experience. So you wonder how much of this was Johnny wanted to stay where he was, and how much of this was Coach K kind of handpicking his successor. But I'm not surprised to see him on the list. I think it only makes sense that he's on that list. But to your point, Trace, we'll see. But everyone beware, right? Mike says this all the time. You don't want to be the guy who follows the guy. You want to be the next guy. So if John Shire stays there a couple of years and things don't turn around, and Johnny's still there having success, that train could come calling again. So I don't know that we're out of the woods just yet.
Tough shoes to fill, right? Nobody
exactly
wants to replace him.
I was just going to say the guy after the guy line, and you stole it from me. But, if that tip goes in and we beat Duke head-to-head, how high up on the list is Johnny then? Or maybe he's already gone from UCF if that had happened.
Interesting.
It's interesting. You got to wonder from an ego standpoint, does Coach K really want somebody better than him sort of taking over, right? I don't know Coach K at all. Spoiler alert. But you wonder, does he want kind of a younger guy versus an established coach? Because in theory, that still keeps the Coach K thumbprint on the program. Johnny's been outside the walls for a while at Stanford and UCF now. He's going to bring his own culture. I imagine Shire's going to continue forward with a lot of the things Krzyzewski built. So maybe he was Krzyzewski, that is, more comfortable with that side of it. Who knows? But I don't think we're out of the woods just yet, friends.
Yeah. One note that next time have opportunity to speak with Coach Dawkins, or Mike, if you're buddies with him now, you might text him about this. John Rothstein reporting or saying that sources tell him that multiple mid-major programs are opting not to play guaranteed games against high major programs because it gives power conference teams a free live evaluation of future players that they could pick up in the transfer portal. I don't know what they couldn't see on film, why they need to be there necessarily in person, but I'd like to get Coach Dawkins' assessment of that. It's going to be very interesting. Transfer portal, especially with the COVID year, across all sports. And I thought that was an interesting note. Of course, UCF, as announced, has several high-profile games coming up on the schedule. So UCF doesn't seem to be shying away from the Michigans and the Oklahomas and the like. So FSU in the coming schedule. One sport that is also going to have to be, you're going to have to roster manage, as we've been talking about for football, is baseball. Baseball closes out its season over in Clearwater losing to that team over in Tampa, you hate to lose to your rival in the championship game. UCF fights back, loses 8-7, 31-30 on the year. Already a player, left-hand pitcher Nick Gatilla, entering the transfer portal. Might see more names enter that transfer portal. Head coach Greg Lovelady basically talks about what's next in his offseason.
We just need to develop the guys that are going to be here, and we need to recruit guys that can come in and help us. I mean, we got to get better on the mound. But I got to sit down and evaluate just our roster, and obviously with the draft and who's coming back and all that kind of stuff, and try to figure all that out. And then we just got to get to work. One, in the transfer portal, we got some young guys, freshmen coming in that I'm really, really excited about, that I think can make some more immediate impacts. And then we gotta keep developing, the young guys that we have, just to have more depth. And we got to try to stay healthy. Obviously, losing Colton was huge. Obviously, losing Kenny early in the year was huge.
Well, we punted the question that we got in the mailbag last week from Eric at UCF One Big Ohana to grade the sports. Your homework was grade male sports. Let's start with baseball. Adam, what's your final grade for baseball? 31-30 on the year, 18-14 in the American during the regular season.
Yeah, I think obviously getting to the conference tournament final swayed the grade for me a little bit. Let me preface this by saying a quick little backstory about your guy here. For a couple of years, I actually taught at the University of Phoenix. I was an online instructor, and one of the things that my family makes fun of me for is I never gave a 100%. Never, ever, ever. The highest paper grade I'd ever give was a 99. There was no 100s in my class. You can book it. So I'm a bit of a tough grader here. So that's the backdrop for this. But 31-30, 18-4 in conference. They got to the AAC final. Kind of unprecedented. I don't think anyone expected that. We all hoped and thought and wished and prayed. I'm not sure anyone thought that. But obviously a team that, again, we had such high hopes off of last year, didn't really perform the way that I think we thought they were. Injuries obviously play a role in it. So I'm going to give them a C. And that's really a C because they got to the conference final. I think if they don't get to the conference final, that's a worse grade for me. But I'm going to go with a C for baseball.
It's like you have my notes sitting right in front of your face. It's exactly what I was saying. It's a 500 ball club. We came into this season with high expectations off that shortened COVID year where they looked so good. And coming in this year and kind of disappointing from the very start. I mean, I know we had that win against Mississippi and we beat East Carolina. We split with them early in the year, but right off the bat, getting beat up by FAU a couple times and never really seemed to get on that roll. We got hot here in the conference tournament. And the loss, not only losing in the championship game, but to the Cows. That's what brings it down to a C, maybe even a C-, just because of the whole way it ended.
I'm going to borrow from Mike's tactic last week on the show. Can you see that? No, you can't really see it. C. That was my grade. I give them a C as well.
Are we doing props now? No one told me.
Men's basketball, Adam.
11-12 overall, 8-10 in the AAC. Young team, a lot of talent kind of molding together. They looked so good early on. That win against Florida State. Wheels fell off in a hurry. Obviously, his injuries played a role. We saw some interesting rotations. Obviously not a ton of depth. So if I'm just judging on last season alone, I'm going to judge on the curve here a little bit because it was COVID, because there were a couple of stoppages in the program throughout that season. I think, from all the teams, they may have been impacted the most. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I feel like they had several pauses for COVID. I'm going to go C-. I'm going to go C-. It was on the line for a D. I went C- because I will give them the benefit of the doubt that they did have a bunch of stoppages, molding some players together. But again, we've seen Johnny Dawkins bring talent in. We were all excited about CJ Walker, former 5-star, Isaiah Adams, Mr. Basketball, Darius Perry, Louisville pedigree. We had Mahan coming back. Jamil Reynolds seemed promising, and we're 11-12 and 8-10. And how we got there, Johnny talked about it with Mike, just didn't develop, a lot of turnovers, a lot of continuity issues. So that's why I'll give him a pass, as he didn't control all that, but I'm going to go C-.
Yeah, I'm also going with a C myself. I mean, so much had to do with how high they started and kind of got me excited. With that win at Florida State, I did not see coming, especially getting beat up by Michigan a little earlier. But then to just throw that in the toilet when we get into conference play, we lost some very close games. The 2 Wichita games, and Wichita won in the regular season. We should have won both those games. There was a game against the Cows early in the year that we blew a second half lead. I think there was a the first Houston game, we played well with them. And by the time we played them the second time, we didn't look like we didn't belong on the court with those guys. So we kind of went backwards as the season went along. Didn't make any noise in the tournament. I gave it a C also.
I gave basketball a C. Football.
All right, football. James Kostek also a C for basketball. 6-4 overall. A humiliating loss in the Boca Bowl. We know the story of the season. We lost a heartbreaker at Memphis on a last-second field goal. Tulsa again just de-pantsed us like they always do. Cincinnati just controlled the field up and down. We didn't belong anywhere in the Boca vicinity. So it's not so much the 6-4 because you go, hey, we were 500. It was COVID year, although they did not have any impacts as a team, which is a testament to the players and the coaching staff last year. But the games we lost, it just seemed like we took a step backwards in the season last year. Obviously, a lot of that's changed now, so it's probably easy to bag on where we are. But I'm going to go football with a D. And it's more so just because of the way we looked. When we lost bad. And when we lost, we didn't make any adjustments. We had Otis Anderson on the show, and I asked him a question about, why didn't we do anything to adjust to Tulsa? And he basically said, I don't want to answer that. So you can interpret what you want out of that. I think we while the record is 6-4, we took a step back last year. I think there's no denying that. So I'm going to go with a D. And football, unfortunately, I'm not a failing grade, I guess, but definitely gets a D.
Also, I went with a D. We were out of this conference race before November, and this is a sport where we expect to compete for the conference every year. The loss to Tulsa at home, again, that just can't happen. The Memphis loss. Memphis was not a good team this year, right? And when we let them put 50 on us, we have a chance to win it, and we blow it with the last-second kick. Boca was a disaster, as you said, and having the guys kicked off the team, just an embarrassment to the program overall. They're lucky it's not an F. The only reason it's not an F is because we've had winless seasons here before. So this is slightly better than that, but basically a 500 football season, that can't happen.
600, but I give them a C. Give them a C.
Wow. Men's
golf.
No better place to come for golf analysis than the Sons of UCF Live. Here's what I'm not going to lie, I didn't follow them closely. Here's what I did when I researched. We had 4 top 5 finishes, but no finish higher than 4. Johnny Travail seemed to be kind of our lead guy. I'm going to go B just because I don't know.
I couldn't even find the guys' names on our golf team, so whatever. B+.
I went with a C. I've got 4 straight C's. Men's soccer.
All right, men's soccer 9-4-1 AAC champs. Won the first round in the tournament, lost in the second round 4-0 to Pitt. But overall, great season in my opinion. I'm gonna go. Wait for it. A-. I think Coach Calabrese definitely had the guys playing well down the stretch, and this is a team that started off kind of slow, and we were all like, "Hey, what's happening here?" They really rebounded towards the end of the season. Made a run to the tourney. Obviously, we got outplayed and on the pitch in round 2 of the tournament, but I think overall a strong season. Watching people hoist a championship trophy on our home turf, no greater feeling than that. If that team can do that, they get an A- from me.
Yeah, I gave them an A. You win a conference. You go to the tournament, you win a game there. I know we got our doors blown off against Pitt, but overall, a pretty good year. A.
A+. Giving them an A+ for getting to the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. And men's tennis that just recently concluded.
22-4, Trace. I think they peaked at number 9 overall in the tennis rankings. Also, a second-round exit from the NCAA tournament. Overall, great season. I think there were probably higher expectations, though, that they could have done a little bit more, Trace. I'm not sure if anyone would agree with that. So because of that, I'm also going to give them an A-. I think they had the opportunity to maybe make some moves there. I know, was that a back end? Gabe DeCamps had a really good year, good season. He didn't quite make it, I think, as far as he wanted. Some injuries plagued him at the end there. But I think John Roddick has the tennis program as a whole in the right direction. I'm going to go A- because I think there were higher expectations there. And I think we left a little bit of the match on the court, as it were.
I gave both tennis programs an A. They both won the conference. You win the conference, you get an A automatically.
I'm going A+. A+ for men's tennis. So we've got the women's sports next week. Let's break up the list since there's a lot more women's sports than men's. I'll give you half of them to study up. And Mike, women's golf may be on that list for next week. So you have.
I actually have women's golf here. I didn't have any. I have all the women's sports. I was ready, except for men's golf. So
right. Just do the men's sports this week. Just do the men's sports this week.
Trace, if I have your scoring correctly, then you think that the most successful men's athletic program in 2021 was the tennis team?
I had men's soccer at an A+ and tennis at an A+.
Okay, so those two teams are tied for, and you had essentially football as the least successful.
4 C's. I had 4 C's on the rest. Baseball, basketball.
You got to pick one. You can't sit on the fence. You got to pick one. Which was the worst?
Probably football, just based on expectations and how important it is to the overall athletics program.
Fair enough.
So, yeah. All right, we had some mailbag questions that'll take some time to answer, but I want to get to one from @Grajales Debbie. That's Grajales. She said, any inside info on how the cool new murals in the football building came to be? So I reached out to Eric DeSalvo, who is with Content and all the branding at UCF, and he said that with June 1st being the start of the recruiting season in person, he said in his response to me, Gus knew that the facilities needed to shine more on the visits, and that he and staff worked with facilities and the branding team, which consisted of Eric, Jimmy Skiles, and Emma Schneider. They changed 11 walls on the east hallway. You've seen the video. They talked through what they thought were the most important themes for recruiting, which included the stadium, the bounce house. So you see that as part of the experience. Orlando in general. You know, UCF's always selling that everybody else vacations here, and this is where you could live. New Year's 6 wins is a feature in that. NFL guys, all the guys drafted in the last 5 years, he says, are on one side. And every single player who has been invited to a rookie camp, undrafted free agent, or drafted in any other league is featured on another plank in there. College game day, we know that experience against Cincinnati a couple of seasons back. They focused on the space uniforms and also on Spirit Splash. They said that they've also updated the team room that has a new theater seating and new wall graphics, including highest draft pick and Pro Bowlers, conference championships, and the New Year's 6 games. Hallways got new LED lights in white paint. Lobby still a work in progress, but the video board there, he says, now draws in visitors and features the trophies. And he ended with, Gus and Terry know the importance of facilities, plenty more in store for the future. So anticipating more changes to come in the future, but a nice fresh look to welcome in the recruits.
Yeah, it's a good look. Obviously, it's good to see that UCF's continuing to upgrade. You know, I don't know. I don't know how much this, things like this really impress recruits. I'm sure it probably does, or else schools wouldn't do it. I think, us crusty old men look at that and go, it's a picture on the wall. Do I want to go to school here? Do I like the program? But I can see how this is something that's exciting for kids and players. We're not quite at the Clemson level where we have a slide that takes us from the first floor to the second floor. Sorry, second floor to the first floor. But, still close enough. So it's good to see us keeping up with the Joneses.
Gus has to walk by that mural of us beating him in the Peach Bowl every day. The one thing that they didn't put any recognition on is right here, national champions. I don't see that signage anywhere. And it's a question, is that going to still be on the stadium when we play Boise on September 2nd? If it's not, I say we burn the place down. We riot, right?
Oh, boy. You're rioting now. Yeah, it is. They may try to de-emphasize that, right? But I don't think they take it off the stadium. I'd
be surprised if it's there. Maybe not after this year, but after this year, if they keep it up, I think I'll be surprised with it.
My predict they move it. I think they maybe make it a little smaller, maybe hang it someplace else. Maybe it doesn't go all the way, but I wouldn't be shocked if you don't see it prominently displaced to someplace else under the guise of an upgrade or a paint job or something, and maybe it ends up getting stuck in an end zone someplace.
Interesting. Possible riot less than 100 days away from UCF. Mike, you guys debuted a new feature this week, Sunny Delight. What was it? Sunny Side Up?
Yeah, no, I see what you did there. Sun, day, night conversations. A lot of words there.
Sun,
Listen,
day,
night.
night.
Yep. You got it. There you go. Yeah, here's the thing. Obviously, Mike and I did a whole host of shows, and we've had a chance to have a bunch of different former Knights on. Those shows are not available to many of the listening public. So we want to bring some of those interviews back. I know some folks maybe found us just recently, haven't heard some of these conversations. There's literally archived on my computer, and I feel selfish not sharing those with the UCF world. So this week we decided to put out one of those features. It's the summer months, as Trace mentioned. Not a lot going on every now and again. So, we'll try to add these into our arsenal of content. This week was Sean Jefferson and Taj McGowan, both of whom were selected by Mike and I in our last show of our Big Three segment. Two really good interviews, in my opinion. Sean Jefferson, a UCF legend, and Taj McGowan had one of the more iconic plays in UCF history. So if you have not heard those, make sure you subscribe to the Sons of UCF podcast, and you'll find it all.
Even if you had heard them, I mean, I was in on the interview. I obviously heard them before. I had forgotten about a lot.
It was all new to you.
2 years ago was a long time when we spoke to McGowan, and even the Sean Jefferson. I can't get enough of listening to his recruiting story. So we've got a bunch of those, and there's still a lot of them that we still haven't played back yet. I mean, we got the Morris, we got the first O'Leary one, we got a whole bunch of them. So
again, that is Sun, Day, Night Conversation featuring Sean Jefferson and Taj McGowan. Like it on your pod feed, give a nice review, do all of that. Can you also find these on twonightsmedia.com or?
Well, you most certainly. You know what? You're a legend in your own time, Trace. You certainly can find those. twonightsmedia.com. That's where you'll find all new content from the Sons of UCF, including the live shows, including audio stuff, and maybe just one day we'll write something too. But that hasn't happened yet. But everything else,
I refresh it every day for the Fresh Mike column, and every morning I'm disappointed.
Yeah, the editing process is pretty rigorous for UCF, Mike.
By the way, Mike, it's AAC, not ACC. If in fact you write an article about the expansion. Okay. Yeah. You don't have to work at Sports Illustrated to get those two right.
Well, what's going to be great is Mike's going to write it and I'll take it down right away. So it'll seem like something nefarious happened. So maybe we'll get some clicks that way. Yeah, we'll get some clicks.
Post it back up with the same mistakes.
I want to thank all of you for watching. I want to thank Carlos McCants for joining us and wish him all of the best in his new role. I want to thank Adam for being here for the full 60 minutes this week, not 50 minutes. I want to thank Mike for getting here at 7:58, full 2 minutes before the start. We're going to take a look at half of the women's sports next week. Who knows what else? Start cooking up on this show just as soon as we sign off the air. I want to thank you guys, as always, for cracking me up and keeping things fun. For Adam and Mike, I am Trace Strelko. Go Knights!
Charge on.